Welcome, friend. Take a moment to settle into your pillows, letting the weight of your day begin to lift just as the sun begins its slow, graceful descent behind the distant hills. We are stepping together into a garden, not in the bright, busy glare of noon, but in the soft, bruised colors of twilight. Everything around us is slowing down. The honeybees have returned to their hives, the garden gates have clicked shut, and the songbirds are tucking their heads under their wings in the safety of the hedgerows. But as the rest of the world prepares for rest, a secret door is opening. In the botanical world, there is a specialized group of plants that prefer the cool, quiet embrace of the dark. While most flowers close their petals tightly to protect their pollen from the evening dew, these unique plants are only just beginning to stir, stretching their stems toward the first stars. Scientists call them vespertine flowers. The word itself feels like a whisper, coming from the Latin vesper, meaning evening. These are the creatures of the dusk, the silent workers of the night shift. They have spent the day in a state of patient waiting, holding their beauty in reserve until the world grows still enough for them to be heard. As we sit here in the tall, cooling grass of our imaginary garden, watching the shadows lengthen and the colors of the roses turn to shades of charcoal, I want to thank you for joining me. If you find peace in these quiet explorations of our natural world, please consider subscribing to the channel and gently liking this video. It is a small, peaceful way to support our mission of bringing calm and knowledge to these quiet hours, helping our community grow much like the garden we are visiting tonight. Thank you for being part of this stillness. Now, look up at the sky. The last embers of gold and amber are fading from the very edge of the horizon, replaced by a deep ink blue velvet that seems to absorb the remaining light. The air is growing crisp, smelling of damp earth and the subtle promise of coming dew. The sun has finished its long day's work, handing the keys of the world over to the moon as that silver crescent begins to climb higher, casting a pale ethereal glow over the landscape. We notice something remarkable. In the deepening shadows, where everything else is turning dark, certain flowers are starting to shimmer. The transition from the world of light to the world of shadow is complete, and the evening's performance is about to begin. The garden is no longer sleeping. It is waking up in a completely different way. Take a slow, deep breath with me now. Feel the coolness of the evening air as it fills your lungs, clear, crisp, and refreshing. The garden has become a place of profound stillness. If you were to press your palm against the earth right now, you would feel the last lingering traces of the day's warmth slowly fading from the soil as the ground settles into its nightly rest. The busy hum of the afternoon has evaporated, replaced by a silence so heavy it feels like a soft blanket. In this quiet, the visual world begins to shift in a very specific way. Notice the flowers that are opening around us. While the vibrant reds, hot pinks, and deep purples of the daytime garden have retreated into the shadows, becoming almost invisible in the low light, these nocturnal blooms are doing something different. They don't need the flashy, saturated colors that attract bees and butterflies under the bright sun. Instead, you'll notice that many night-blooming plants have evolved to be purely white, or perhaps a soft, pale cream, like the color of a vintage pearl. There is a beautiful practical reason for this lack of color. In the near total darkness of a moonlit night, white is the most visible color in the natural world. These pale petals act like tiny living reflectors, catching the silver light of the moon and the faint, distant glimmer of the stars. While a red flower would simply look black in the dark, a white flower shimmers. This high visibility is essential for the survival of the species. It acts as a visual beacon, a glowing signal in the dark that guides pollinators toward their destination. Imagine being a moth, fluttering through the ink-black canopy of the trees. To your eyes, which are specially tuned to pick up the faintest traces of light, these white blossoms appear like lanterns hung in the darkness. They are easy to find, easy to navigate toward, even from a distance. They stand out against the dark, waxy green of the leaves like stars against the night sky. This luminescent quality makes the garden feel ethereal, as if the plants themselves are made of moonlight and stardust. As we sit here in the cooling grass, watching these porcelain-like petals unfurl and catch the silver glow from above, we realize that sight is only the beginning of the evening story. The air around us is changing in other ways too. As the temperature drops and the atmosphere becomes more stable and damp, the garden begins to speak to us in a different language. The visual beauty of the white petals is just the first layer of the night's invitation. Now, a new sensation is starting to drift through the cooling air, carried on the softest of breezes, calling out to those who navigate by sense rather than by sight. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the air as it begins to cool. During the day, the sun beats down on the earth, causing warm air to rise in invisible, swirling currents. These currents are like a busy crowd, tossing scents around and breaking them apart before they can travel very far. But as the stars begin to peer through the canopy, the atmosphere undergoes a quiet transformation. The air becomes still, layered, and slightly damp. This is what scientists call a stable atmosphere. In this peaceful state, the night garden begins its most important work. Take a slow, deep breath in. Notice how the air feels slightly heavier now, cooler against your skin. It carries a certain freshness that wasn't there an hour ago. You might notice that the air suddenly feels thicker with fragrance, a sweet and intoxicating weight that seems to hang suspended in the darkness. It isn't just your imagination. Night-blooming flowers have evolved a strategy that is quite different from the flowers of the morning, because they cannot rely on bright, vibrant colors like crimson or gold to attract attention in the shadows. They pour an immense amount of their biological energy into their scent. A single jasmine vine or a cluster of tuberose can fill an entire valley with its perfume. These flowers are, in a way, shouting into the darkness, using fragrance as their voice. The science behind this is truly fascinating. The perfumes we smell are actually composed of volatile organic compounds, tiny, lightweight molecules that are specifically designed to evaporate and travel through the air. In the heat of the day, these molecules would vanish almost instantly, scattered by the wind and the rising heat. But in the cool, moist air of the evening, these compounds linger. They hang in the air like delicate, invisible threads. Because the night air is so calm and stable, these scent trails can remain intact for incredibly long distances, stretching out across the landscape like a map made of aroma. For a human walking through the garden, the experience is one of pure relaxation, a sweet, heavy blanket of perfume that slows the heart and clears the mind. But for the creatures of the night, these scents are a matter of survival. They are a high-definition navigation system. A tiny creature miles away can pick up a single molecule of this fragrance and follow it back to its source, drifting along those invisible ribbons of scent until they find the glowing white petal waiting for them in the dark. As we sit here in the stillness, the garden is no longer just a collection of plants. It is a complex web of chemical signals weaving through the trees and over the grass. The air is alive with information, moving slowly and steadily through the dark. And just as the scent reaches its peak, we begin to hear a new sound, a soft, rhythmic vibration that tells us the first of the night's great travelers has arrived, guided by the very perfume that now surrounds us. Through the gloom, the first visitors begin to appear, their wings moving so fast they are almost a blur against the moonlit sky. Listen closely to the stillness. Beyond the rustle of the leaves and the distant murmur of the night, there is a new sound, a low, rhythmic thrumming, so soft you might feel it in your chest before you hear it with your ears. This is the sound of the hawk moth, often called the hummingbird of the night. As you lie there, tucked safely into your covers, imagine this creature emerging from the shadows, its wings moving with such incredible speed that they become a silver haze in the moonlight. The hawk moth is a marvel of natural engineering, a tiny pilot navigating the vast dark landscape with the confidence of a seasoned traveler. Unlike most insects that must land on a flower to feed, the hawk moth has the rare and beautiful ability to hover perfectly still in midair. It hangs there, suspended in front of a bloom, its body steady while its wings beat hundreds of times every second. This hovering is a demanding feat of physics, requiring a precise figure-8 motion of the wings that creates a pocket of lift, allowing the moth to remain weightless in the dark. It is a moment of perfect balance, the heavy fragrance of the flower meeting the focused energy of the moth. To reach the nectar hidden deep within the throat of a night-blooming flower, the hawk moth possesses one of the most extraordinary tools in the natural world. Its proboscis. This is a long, straw-like tongue that stays coiled in a neat, tight spiral beneath its head when it is traveling. But when the moth senses the sweet reward of a blossom, it unfurls this delicate, flexible tube. In some species, the proboscis is truly astonishing, reaching lengths that far exceed the moth's entire body. Imagine a creature no bigger than your palm, reaching out with a silver thread several inches long to drink from the very heart of a flower. There is a famous story in the world of science about a specific orchid from Madagascar with a nectar tube nearly a foot deep. When Charles Darwin first saw it, he predicted that there must be a moth somewhere in the world with a tongue long enough to reach the bottom. Decades later, scientists discovered exactly what he described, the Morgan's sphinx moth, a nocturnal traveler with a proboscis nearly 12 inches long. It is a beautiful example of how nature works in pairs. Two different lives evolving together over millions of years to fit perfectly, like a key in a lock. As the hawk moth moves from flower to flower, it doesn't just drink, it carries life with it. Tiny grains of pollen stick to its fuzzy, velvet-like body, hitching a ride to the next bloom. This is the quiet work of the night shift, a constant, gentle movement that ensures the garden will return again next year. The moth is a creature of immense stamina and precision, guided by senses that are far more sensitive than our own. Its eyes, large and dark, are designed to soak up every stray photon of moonlight, allowing it to see a world of shapes and shadows that we can only imagine. As it hovers, it is a picture of serene focus, a tiny heartbeat in the vastness of the evening. The air around it is stirred into tiny cooling currents by its wings, a gentle breeze that helps spread the flower's scent even further into the trees. The biology of the moth is not just about flight and feeding, it is about deep, ancient connections. The way it moves, the way it drinks, and the way it rests are all synchronized with the turning of the earth and the rising of the moon. It is a silent partner to the plants, a guardian of the garden's future, working while the rest of the world sleeps. Let your mind drift with the moth for a moment, moving through the cool air, guided by those invisible maps of scent, and feeling the steady, calming pulse of the night. Take a slow, gentle breath, and as you exhale, imagine the soft weightlessness of a moth as it finally settles onto a petal. It lands so lightly that the flower barely bows under its weight. To the moth, that petal is a vast, silken landscape, a safe harbor in the cooling night air. As it rests, its wings might give one last rhythmic quiver before going still, blending perfectly into the shadows and the silver-gray light of the moon. While it sits there, those delicate, feathery antennae are never truly at rest. They are constant, silent sentinels, twitching almost imperceptibly as they scan the breeze. These antennae are some of the most sophisticated sensory organs in the entire animal kingdom. They don't just feel the air, they smell it with a precision that is difficult for us to even fathom. A moth can detect the chemical signature of a specific flower's perfume from over a mile away. It is as if the night is filled with invisible ribbons of scent, and the moth simply follows the path they lay out, drifting through the dark until it reaches the source. It doesn't need a map or a compass. It simply follows the fragrance through the trees, guided by the invisible chemistry of the garden. But the night holds other sounds too, sounds that we cannot hear, but that are vital to the moth's survival. As it travels from bloom to bloom, it must stay alert to the high-pitched, ultrasonic pulses of hunting bats. Over millions of years, many species of moths have evolved specialized ears, often located on their midsection or even near their mouth parts, tuned specifically to the frequency of a bat's echolocation. When a moth hears those telltale clicks getting louder and faster, it doesn't panic. It reacts with a series of graceful, erratic dives and loops, a silent aerial dance that allows it to vanish into the darkness and dodge its pursuer. It is a quiet, ancient game of hide and seek, played out in the starlight, a testament to the incredible adaptations required to thrive in the world of the night shift. Once the sky is clear and the air is still again, the moth returns to its primary mission, the search for the perfect flower. Moths are discerning visitors, and they have very specific preferences when it comes to the plants they choose to visit. They aren't just looking for any blossom. They are looking for partners that have shaped themselves specifically for a nocturnal encounter. These plants have a unique architecture designed to be found, reached, and pollinated in the low light of the moon. They offer deep wells of nectar and a safe place to land, waiting patiently for their winged guests to arrive. This deep connection between a specific insect and a specific plant is one of the most beautiful stories in biology, leading us to one special plant that has tied its entire existence to the life of a single humble moth. In the quiet expanse of the high desert or the still corners of a moonlit garden, you might see the tall, spiked silhouette of the yucca plant. Its creamy, bell-shaped flowers hang in heavy clusters, pale and luminous against the dark sky. These flowers are waiting for one very specific visitor, a tiny white insect known as the yucca moth. This is not just a casual visit. It is one of nature's most extraordinary examples of teamwork, a relationship so close that neither the plant nor the moth could survive without the other. While most insects visit flowers simply to drink nectar, accidentally picking up pollen along the way, the yucca moth is different. She is a purposeful worker of the night. Using specialized mouth parts that no other moth possesses, she carefully gathers pollen from the yucca's stamens. She doesn't eat it. Instead, she rolls the sticky yellow dust into a tiny ball, tucked neatly under her chin. With this precious cargo, she flies to another yucca flower, moving with a quiet, focused grace through the cool evening air. When she arrives, she does something truly remarkable. She doesn't just wander over the petals. She climbs deep into the heart of the flower and deliberately presses the pollen ball onto the plant's stigma, the part of the flower that needs pollen to create seeds. This is a conscious act of pollination, a rarity in the insect world, but she isn't doing it out of a sense of charity. By ensuring the flower is pollinated, she is ensuring that the plant will produce seeds. And it is inside those developing seeds that she lays her own tiny eggs. This is what scientists call mutualism. It is a delicate balance, a contract written in the moonlight. The moth's larvae will eventually hatch and eat some of the yucca's seeds, but they never eat all of them. The plant sacrifices a few of its offspring to provide a nursery for the moth, and in return, the moth ensures that the plant can reproduce at all. Without this tiny white moth, the yucca would never bear fruit. Without the yucca, the moth would have nowhere for its young to grow. They are two halves of a single story unfolding in the silence of the evening, a perfect partnership that has lasted for millions of years. As you lie there, imagine the stillness required for such a precise interaction. There is no rush, no competition from the busy daytime world. The yucca only opens its blossoms when the sun has dipped below the horizon, timing its display perfectly to meet its partner. This sense of timing is not an accident. It is governed by a deep internal rhythm that tells the plant exactly when the world is quiet enough for its work to begin. It is a biological clock, tuned to the fading light and the cooling air. As the twilight deepens into what is often called the blue hour, the world undergoes a subtle but profound transformation. The sky is no longer bright, yet it isn't quite dark. It is a soft, bruised indigo that seems to hang heavy and cool over the petals of the night-blooming flowers. In this quiet transition, the garden begins its most active phase, governed by a rhythm as steady as a heartbeat. You can almost feel the earth exhaling as the last of the day's heat rises into the atmosphere, leaving behind a stillness that is perfect for the work ahead. You might wonder how these plants, rooted deep in the soil and without eyes to see the horizon, know so precisely when to begin their display. It is a beautiful piece of biological engineering. Within every cell of the plant, there is a tiny internal clock, a circadian rhythm that has been tuned over millions of years to the spinning of our planet. This clock doesn't just tell the plant when to grow, it tells it when to breathe, when to rest, and exactly when to unfurl its blossoms. It is a silent conductor, ensuring that every flower in the meadow or the forest follows the same sheet music. As the sun dips lower, the intensity of the light changes. The plant has specialized proteins that act like delicate sensors, detecting the shift from the golden rays of the afternoon to the long blue wavelengths of evening. When the light hits a specific low threshold, it triggers a chemical signal. Like a slow-motion mechanism, the cells on one side of a petal begin to expand at a different rate than those on the other, causing the flower to peel back its layers and reveal its heart to the cooling air. This precise timing is not just for show, it is a strategy for survival. Nectar is a precious resource, a sweet, energy-rich liquid that takes a great deal of the plant's effort to create. If a flower were to open during the bright, busy hours of the day, it would risk being visited by nectar thieves, insects that are happy to drink the sugar, but are the wrong size or shape to brush against the pollen. By waiting until the blue hour, the plant ensures that its doors are open only when its specialized partners are awake. It saves its gifts for the specific visitors who will carry its legacy forward and into the dark, preventing the waste of its hard-earned energy on daytime insects that aren't efficient pollinators for its specific species. As you settle deeper into your pillow, imagine the garden as a series of timed locks, each one clicking open at just the right moment. The moths we spoke of are already there, moving like ghosts between the white blossoms. But as the blue of the sky fades into a deep velvety black, a different kind of energy begins to stir. High above in the branches, or perhaps emerging from the mouth of a nearby cave, a larger shadow moves against the stars. It is a heavier sound than the flutter of a moth, a rhythmic, leathery beat of wings. The night is about to welcome its most misunderstood and vital gardener, the bat. Take a slow, deep breath in, and as you exhale, listen to the imaginary sound of a gentle wind moving through the high canopy of a forest. It is a soft, shushing sound, like the earth itself is whispering to the stars. The leaves rustle against one another, a quiet, rhythmic applause for the ending of the day. In this stillness, as the shadows of the night deepen, we begin to see that the garden is not just a place of delicate insects. While the moth is a ghostly visitor, almost weightless, as it dances, the night also belongs to a much more robust and powerful traveler. We often think of bats as creatures of the deep cave or the high attic, but in reality, they are some of the most industrious and vital gardeners on our planet. Across the globe, from the humid tropical rainforests to the cool and desert floor, there is a vast hidden network of life that depends entirely on these winged mammals. In fact, over 500 different species of plants rely on bats to survive and reproduce. Without the quiet, consistent work of the bat, our world would look and taste very different. Many of the fruits and plants we value most, like the creamy banana, the sweet mango, the agave, and the guava, owe their very existence to the nocturnal visits of these furry aviators. Because a bat is much larger and heavier than a moth or a bee, the flowers that seek their attention have had to evolve in a very specific, structural way. These are not the fragile, thin-petaled blossoms of the morning that might bruise at a heavy touch. Instead, bat-pollinated flowers are architectural marvels of the botanical world. They are often large and wide, shaped like deep, sturdy bells or broad bowls that can comfortably accommodate a bat's face as it reaches in for a deep drink of nectar. Imagine a flower that feels almost like soft leather or thick, cool wax to the touch. These blossoms are built with incredible structural integrity, designed to be strong enough to support the weight of a bat as it clings to the petals or hovers with powerful rhythmic beats of its leathery wings. To make life easier for their visitors, many of these flowers hang down on long, rope-like stalks, dangling far below the protective foliage of the tree. This is a deliberate design, a clear path, a landing strip cleared of tangled leaves so the bat can navigate toward the flower easily using its specialized senses. As you lie there, perfectly still, picture these pale moonlit bells hanging in the dark, swaying ever so slightly in the night breeze. They are often a creamy white, a dull ghostly green, or a pale mauve, colors that don't need to be vibrant because in the world of the bat, visibility is about shape and silhouette as much as it is about light. These flowers stand as silent, sturdy sentinels of the night shift, perfectly engineered for a partner that is both powerful and precise. And while their shape is the first thing a bat might notice, it is the invisible trail they leave in the air that truly guides the way. Take a slow, deep breath, feeling the air fill your lungs, and then leave just as quietly as it arrived. Imagine that this air is now carrying a new scent, something quite different from the sweet floral perfumes we usually associate with a garden in bloom. If you were a bat gliding silently through the canopy on wings as thin as silk, you wouldn't be looking for the delicate scent of a rose or a lily. Instead, your senses would be finely tuned to something much more pungent, deep, and earthy. While the flowers that cater to moths are famous for their sugary, ethereal sweetness, the flowers that seek the attention of bats have evolved a completely different olfactory strategy. They produce odors that we, as humans, might find unusual or even startling. These scents are often described as musty, sulfurous, or even slightly fermented. To our noses, it might smell like overripe fruit or the damp, rich floor of an ancient forest. But to a bat, this is the most enticing invitation in the world. It is the scent of life, of energy, and of a meal waiting in the dark. These flowers have learned a brilliant bit of evolutionary mimicry. They produce specific volatile organic compounds that mimic the chemical signature of fruit that has begun to ripen and soften. Because many nectar-feeding bats also enjoy the juices of wild fruits, they are naturally attracted to to these heavy, fermented aromas. It is a dinner bell that rings through the night air. This scent is intentionally heavy and persistent. It doesn't just drift away on the first breeze. Instead, it lingers in the humid air of the jungle or the still air of the plains, creating a fragrant path, a trail of breadcrumbs made of scent that a bat can follow for miles across the darkened landscape. This unique partnership isn't confined to just one small corner of the world. It is a global phenomenon, a silent agreement written into the very survival of plants and animals across vast distances. In the dense, emerald heart of the Amazon, the bat and the blossom work together to keep the jungle thriving, ensuring that the great trees can produce the seeds of the next generation. In the islands of the South Pacific and the ancient mist-covered forests of Southeast Asia, this same dance occurs every single night, hidden from human eyes and eyes, but essential to the rhythm of the planet. Even as we move away from the humid tropics and toward the vast open spaces of the arid lands, we see how this bond adapts to some of the most beautiful and extreme environments on Earth. The relationship between the bat and the flower is the heartbeat of many ecosystems, a connection that bridge-walks across continents. As the air turns cooler and the vegetation becomes more sparse, we find ourselves entering a landscape where the night shift must be even more resilient and the flowers even more spectacular in their brief, moonlit lives. As the humidity of the rainforest fades from our minds, we find ourselves in a place where the air is thin and crisp, and the ground beneath us is made of ancient, cooling air. We have arrived in the Sonoran Desert under a vast, star-studded sky. Here, the heat of the day has begun to radiate back into space, leaving the landscape quiet and still. In the moonlight, the silhouettes of the great saguaro cacti rise up like gentle giants, their long arms reaching toward the heavens as if to catch the passing clouds. These magnificent plants are the sentinels of the desert, growing slowly inch by inch over hundreds of years. But tonight, the saguaro is doing something extraordinary. High atop its towering columns, a crown of large waxy flowers begins to unfurl. These blossoms are a brilliant creamy white, standing out against the dark green skin of the cactus like fallen stars. The saguaro flower is a marvel of nature's timing. It blooms for only one night. It opens its petals as the sun sets, offering its treasures to the creatures of the dark, and by the heat of the following afternoon, it will begin to wilt and close forever. It is a fleeting, beautiful performance, a single night of glory that serves a vital purpose in the life of the desert. As these flowers open, they release a scent that is surprisingly fresh, a fragrance reminiscent of overripe melons or cucumbers, drifting through the cool desert air. This scent is a beacon for a very special traveler, the lesser long-nosed bat. These small, fuzzy navigators are part of a remarkable journey known as the Nectar Trail. Every year, thousands of these bats migrate from the southern regions of Mexico all the way north into Arizona and New Mexico, a journey of over 2,000 miles. They do not follow landmarks or rivers. Instead, they follow the blooming cycles of the cacti and agave plants. Imagine these tiny creatures, their wings beating softly in the stillness, following a path of fragrance and light across a continent. They are the nomads of the night, perfectly synchronized with the pulse of the earth. When a bat finds a blooming saguaro, it hovers briefly, its long tongue reaching deep into the flower to drink the rich, sweet nectar. In doing so, its face and chest become dusted with golden pollen. As it moves from one cactus to the next, it carries this precious dust with it, ensuring that the saguaro can produce the bright red fruits that will eventually feed the desert's many inhabitants. It is a beautiful symbiotic rhythm. The bat depends on the flower for life-giving energy, and the flower depends on the bat to ensure the next generation of giants. This interaction is a testament to the interconnectedness of all living things, even in the harshest of environments. But as we watch these bats navigate the darkness with such precision, we might wonder how they find these specific flowers in the vast shadowed expanse of the desert. While their sense of smell is keen, they possess another, even more sophisticated tool that allows them to see the world through a veil of sound. This ability, known as echolocation, is their primary guide through the darkness, but the flowers themselves have developed a secret way to talk back to that sound, calling out to the bats in a language we are only just beginning to understand. Take a slow, gentle breath in, feeling the cool, dry air of the desert night as it settles around you. The intense heat of the day has radiated away into the vast starlit sky, leaving the sand and the stone pleasantly chilled. In this stillness, the desert is far from empty. It is a landscape of sound and subtle vibrations, a world that reveals itself only when the sun disappears. We often think of flowers as visual wonders, designed to catch the eye with vibrant colors or intricate patterns. But for a bat navigating in total darkness, a flower's color is of little consequence. To a bat, the world is built from echoes, and the plants have learned to speak this language of sound with incredible precision. As the lesser long-nosed bat flies through the desert, it emits high-pitched clicks, sounds far too high for human ears to detect. These sound waves travel through the air, bounce off objects, and return to the bat, painting a detailed map of the environment in its mind. However, finding a single nectar-rich flower in a cluttered landscape of rocky outcrops and thorny branches is a challenge. To assist their pollinators, some plants have evolved a remarkable biological feature known as acoustic reflectors. These are specialized structures, often leaves or petals, that are shaped like perfect concave dishes, much like a satellite dish, or the palm of a hand cupped behind an ear to catch a distant sound. When a bat's ultrasonic pulse hits one of these specialized reflectors, the sound doesn't scatter or fade. Instead, it is focused and bounced back to the bat with extraordinary intensity and clarity. To the bat's sophisticated hearing, these flowers don't just exist in the dark. They glow like a bright sonic beacon against the muffled, quiet background of the desert scrub. This acoustic signature is so distinct and unique that a bat can identify the flower from a significant distance, even while flying at high speeds. It is a form of communication that bypasses light and color entirely, a conversation held in the frequency of echoes, ensuring the bat finds its meal and the plant finds its messenger. This invisible dialogue between plant and pollinator is a testament to the ingenuity of life, but it is not limited to the open, arid deserts. As we leave the cooling sands of the Sonoran behind, we move toward a place where the air is heavy with moisture and the shadows are much deeper. We travel across oceans to the heart of the tropical rainforests of Southeast Asia. Here, the night shift is even more crowded and complex. In the dense, multi-layered canopy, the darkness is nearly absolute, draped in a thick veil of humidity and the rich, heavy scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. In this lush environment, the stakes for pollination are incredibly high, and the players involved are often much larger and more mysterious. Among the towering giants of the forest, one tree stands out guarded by its sharp thorns and a scent so powerful and peculiar that it defines the very rhythm of the jungle night. Take a deep, slow breath and imagine the air shifting. It is no longer the dry, cooling breeze of the desert, but a thick, warm, and humid embrace. We have moved into the heart of the tropical rainforests of Southeast Asia. Here, the night shift is even more crowded and complex than in the open sands. In the dense, multi-layered canopy, the darkness is nearly absolute, draped in a heavy veil of moisture and the rich, earthy scent of damp moss and ancient wood. In this lush environment, the stakes for pollination are incredibly high, and the players involved are often much larger and more mysterious. Among the towering giants of the forest, one tree stands out, guarded by its sharp thorns and a reputation that precedes it. This is the durian tree, famous throughout the world for its king of fruits. While many people are familiar with the pungent, controversial scent of the fruit itself, fewer know that the life of a durian tree begins with a beautiful nocturnal ritual. Its flowers are large, fleshy, and pale, hanging in heavy, pendulous clusters from the underside of the branches. They remain tightly closed during the heat of the day, waiting for the light to fade. As the sun sets and the humidity rises, the petals begin to unfurl, releasing a heavy, sweet, almost buttery fragrance that drifts through the still air of the jungle. This scent is a specific invitation to some of the most impressive navigators of the night, the fruit bats, often called flying foxes. These are not the tiny, fluttering bats of the northern hemisphere. These are charismatic mammals with fox-like faces and vast, leathery wings. Despite their size, they move through the tangled canopy with a surprising fluid grace. They are not searching for insects. They are looking for the energy-rich nectar hidden deep within the durian blossoms. As a flying fox approaches a cluster of flowers, it grips the sturdy branches and dips its long snout into the blooms. It is a messy, enthusiastic process. As the bat drinks, its soft fur becomes dusted with a thick layer of golden pollen. When it moves to the next tree miles away, it carries that pollen with it, ensuring the survival of the species. Interestingly, scientists have discovered that the durian tree relies almost entirely on these bats for its survival. Without the fruit bats, the durian fruit would never form, and the seeds would never be sown. But the importance of these flying foxes extends far beyond a single type of fruit. They are the essential gardeners of the rainforest. Because they fly such vast distances in a single night, they are responsible for spreading the genetic material of hundreds of different plant species across the landscape. They are a keystone species, a term scientists use for animals that hold an entire ecosystem together. If the bats were to disappear, the very structure of the Southeast Asian rainforest would begin to unravel. The canopy would lose its diversity, and the forest would struggle to regenerate after natural changes. The health of the entire jungle is tied to the silent beat of these wings in the dark. It is a humbling thought to realize how much of the world's vibrant life depends on these quiet, often misunderstood creatures as they move through the shadows. The bat and the tree exist in a perfect ancient loop of give and take. Yet, while the bats are the most visible actors on this tropical stage, the night shift includes many others who have been performing their roles for much longer. As the flying foxes move on to the next flowering tree, we turn our attention toward the lower branches and the forest floor, where a much older, slower group of visitors is just beginning their work. In the quiet corners of the jungle, the air begins to warm around certain flowers, signaling the arrival of the very first pollinators the world ever knew. As we move our focus away from the high canopy where the bats glide, let's descend toward the lower branches and the forest floor. Here, the pace of life feels different. It is slower, more deliberate. In the quiet shadows of the undergrowth, we find a visitor that has been performing its nightly duties for millions of years. This is the beetle, an ancient armored traveler of the dark. While we often think of bees as the primary workers of the garden, they are actually relatively late to the party in the history of life on Earth. Long before the first bee ever took flight, beetles were already establishing deep rhythmic connections with the first flowering plants. Scientists believe that beetles were among the very first insects to act as pollinators, a partnership that began nearly 200 million years ago. This was a time when the world was a very different place. Yet the simple act of a beetle crawling into a blossom has remained virtually unchanged through the eons. Think of the night-blooming magnolia. Its flowers are not delicate or fragile. They are thick, waxy, and remarkably sturdy. There is a reason for this structural strength. Because magnolias evolved so early in history, they adapted specifically to the visits of beetles. Unlike the gentle touch of a butterfly, a beetle's visit is somewhat clumsy. They are often called messy pollinators because they tend to chew on the petals and the pollen as they go. The magnolia flower is built like a fortress to withstand this enthusiastic feeding, ensuring that while the beetle eats, it also carries the essential pollen to the next bloom. But there is something even more magical happening inside these ancient flowers as the night deepens. If you were to touch the center of a night-blooming magnolia or certain other ancient floral lineages, you might feel a surprising sensation. The flower is warm. In the coolness of the evening, when the dew begins to settle and the air turns crisp, these plants are capable of a process called thermogenesis. They are, quite literally, generating their own heat. Imagine a beetle, tired from its slow journey across the forest floor, finding its way into the heart of one of these glowing pale blossoms. Inside it finds a sanctuary. The temperature within the flower can be several degrees warmer than the air outside. It is a cozy, heated room in the middle of a dark, cold world. For the beetle, this warmth is a precious gift, allowing it to remain active and energetic, even when the temperature drops. It stays within the flower, safe and warm, feeding and resting until the first light of morning. This heat is not just for the comfort of the insect, however. It serves a vital purpose for the plant as well. Just as a cup of warm tea releases more steam and aroma than a cold one, The heat generated by the flower helps to volatilize its scent. The warmth carries the flower's perfume higher and further into the still night air, acting as a thermal beacon that calls out to other beetles across the distance. It is a beautiful, invisible bridge of scent and warmth, connecting the plant to the ancient creatures that have helped it survive for millions of years. As you settle deeper into your covers, try to imagine that soft, radiating warmth. It is a gentle pulse of life in the stillness, a quiet reminder that even in the darkest, coldest hours, there are pockets of heat and safety provided by the natural world. This ability to create warmth is one of the most fascinating secrets of the botanical world, and it leads us to some of the most extraordinary plants on our planet, giants of the night that use heat to command the attention of the entire forest. Take a slow, quiet breath now. As you exhale, imagine your own warmth spreading through your blankets, much like the gentle heat of those ancient flowers we just discovered. In the stillness of the dark, there is something deeply comforting about the idea of a living thing creating its own light and warmth. In the deep, humid forest of Sumatra, there grows a plant that takes this concept to its absolute limit. This is the Titan arum. It is a titan in every sense of the word, standing taller than a person, but its true power is hidden within its chemistry. When the Titan arum is ready to bloom, it doesn't just wait for the sun, it creates its own internal weather. Through a process of rapid metabolic activity, the plant begins to generate heat, rising to temperatures of over 90 degrees Fahrenheit. In the cool, damp air of the midnight jungle, the flower becomes a glowing thermal island. If you were to stand near it in the dark, you might feel a faint pulsing radiance. This heat is a masterpiece of biological engineering. It creates what scientists call a chimney effect. As the flower warms up, the air around it becomes lighter and begins to rise, carrying the plant's potent scent molecules high above the forest floor. This allows the fragrance to catch the higher altitude breezes, traveling for miles to find the specific beetles and insects that the plant needs. It is a broadcast system made of temperature and air, a way for a stationary living thing to reach out across vast distances using nothing but the physics of warmth. But for the insects themselves, the heat is a more tactile reward. Imagine a small beetle flying through the chilly night. It senses a pocket of warmth, a literal sanctuary in the cold. It lands within the flower, and instead of struggling against the night air, it finds a temperature-controlled environment where it can feed and rest. The plant provides the heat, and in exchange, the beetle stays long enough to ensure the pollen is thoroughly distributed. It is a beautiful, invisible architecture of survival, a heated home provided by a silent, generous host. As we leave the humid jungle and move toward the starlit deserts and quiet garden trellises, we find that the night has other, more fleeting wonders. While some plants use heat to announce their presence, others rely on a sense of timing, so precise it seems almost magical. There is a legendary cactus, often whispered about in hushed tones by those lucky enough to see it. It is known as the Queen of the Night, or the night-blooming cereus. For most of the year, it looks like nothing more than a collection of dry, unassuming, gray stems. But deep within its cells, it is counting the hours, waiting for a single extraordinary event that happens only once a year. This plant does not rush. It waits for the perfect silent moment to reveal a beauty that exists for only a few hours of darkness. Imagine standing in a quiet garden or a still desert wash on a warm midsummer night. The air is heavy and silent, and the stars above are sharp and clear. For most of the year, if you walked past a night-blooming cereus, you might not even notice it. Its stems are thin, grayish, and often look like nothing more than a few pieces of dry, weathered wood leaning against a fence or a rock. It is a plant that seems to prioritize invisibility, hiding its potential within a humble, spindly frame. But deep within its cells, a biological clock is ticking, counting down the days and hours until a single extraordinary event. This event is one of the most rare and celebrated moments in the botanical world. The Queen of the Night, as it is often called, does not bloom for a season or even for a week. It typically blooms only once a year and for only one single night. It is a performance of incredible precision and focus. In some regions, all the plants of this species in a given area will synchronize their blooming, as if they are all but responding to a silent, invisible signal from the earth itself. It is as if the plant has been holding its breath for 364 days, waiting for this one window of darkness to reveal its true nature. As the sun disappears and the air begins to cool, the large, heavy buds, which have been swelling for weeks, begin to stir. Very slowly, almost imperceptibly, the white petals begin to unfurl. They move with a gentle, rhythmic grace, opening wider and wider until they form a magnificent starburst of creamy white silk. By the time the moon is high in the sky, the flower is fully open, a massive, glowing orb that can reach the size of a dinner plate. It stands out against the dark foliage like a beacon, its pale surface catching and reflecting every stray photon of moonlight. But the most remarkable thing about this bloom isn't just its appearance, it is its presence in the air. As the petals reach their full expansion, the flower begins to release a fragrance so powerful and intoxicating that it seems to fill the entire night. This isn't a subtle scent that you have to lean in to find. It is a thick, sweet perfume, often described as a mix of vanilla and white chocolate that pours out of the bloom like a flood. Scientists have noted that the scent is so potent it can be detected by the human nose from dozens of feet away, even in the open air. For the moths and bats that are its intended audience, this fragrance is a chemical lighthouse, a signal so clear and strong that it can be followed through the darkness for miles. In this moment, at the peak of the night, the plant is at its most alive. It has invested an entire year's worth of energy, water, and nutrients into this one nocturnal display. Every cell is working to maintain the structure of the flower and the intensity of the scent, creating a brief, brilliant sanctuary for the pollinators that travel through the dark. It is a gamble of the highest stakes, a masterpiece of biology that exists for only a few hours of moonlight. You can almost feel the quiet urgency of the bloom, a living clock ticking down toward the approach of the morning sun. The beauty of the Queen of the Night is defined by this fleeting nature. It is a reminder that some of the most profound things in the natural world are those that do not last. As the deep night begins to transition toward the first hints of gray on the horizon, the life cycle of this single bloom prepares for its final, inevitable chapter. As the sky begins to soften from a deep, velvety navy to a pale, dusty violet, the great performance of the night-blooming cereus draws to a close. The intensity of that thick, sweet perfume starts to thin out, dissipating into the cool morning mist as the air begins to move with the first stirrings of the dawn. It is a quiet, almost poetic transformation. The petals that were so vibrant and stiff just an hour ago, reaching out to catch the moonlight, begin to lose their structural strength. By the time the first true rays of the sun crest the horizon, the flower is already in the process of wilting. It is a rapid, dramatic decline. Within just an hour or two, the massive, dinner plate-sized bloom collapses in on itself, its work finished. The creamy white silk of the petals turns translucent and limp, hanging like a damp, discarded cloth against the green-ribbed stem of the cactus. To an observer, it might look like a loss, but in the world of botany, this is a masterpiece of completion. The plant has spent every drop of its accumulated energy, the sugars and water it carefully stored for a full 364 days, on this single nocturnal performance. By sunrise, the biological battery is empty, and the plant must withdraw to recover. This ephemeral strategy, while seemingly brief, is actually a highly efficient gatekeeping mechanism designed by millions of years of evolution. By opening only in the dark and closing before the day truly begins, the cereus ensures that its precious, energy-rich nectar is reserved exclusively for its specialized partners, the long-tongued hawk moths and the nectar-feeding bats. If the flower were to stay open into the heat of the morning, generalist insects like honeybees or butterflies might arrive to take the nectar. While these daytime visitors are wonderful in their own right, they aren't always the right shape or size to effectively transport the specific, heavy pollen of this cactus. By wilting at dawn, the plant effectively locks its doors to the rest of the world, having placed all its trust in the creatures of the night. There is a profound sense of peace in this cycle of blooming and receding. It serves as a gentle reminder that beauty does not need to be permanent to be meaningful. The flower has done exactly what it was meant to do. The pollen has been exchanged, and the seeds are now set to begin their long, slow journey toward becoming new life. The garden settles back into a different kind of quiet, a daytime rest that mirrors the deep restorative stillness you are finding for yourself right now. As you listen to the story of these fading blooms, allow your own body to follow that same lead of letting go. Just as the flower releases its hold on the night, you can release any remaining tension in your jaw, your shoulders, or your hands. Feel the weight of your limbs sinking a little deeper into the softness of the mattress, supported and safe. There is no urgency now, no need to perform or to hold on to the thoughts of the day. Like the garden at dawn, you are simply settling into a state of recovery and quiet. Take a slow, deep breath in, feeling the cool air fill your lungs, and let it go with a long, soft sigh. The world outside may be preparing for its own shift, but here, in this space, the stillness remains. The cycle of the night has looked after the flowers, and now it is looking after you. You are part of this rhythm, drifting closer and closer to a deep, natural rest. As the quiet of the night deepens, let your awareness drift back to the physical sensations of your own body, resting here in the safety of your room. Notice the weight of your limbs, feeling heavy and relaxed, and the way the softness of the pillow supports the curve of your neck. There is nothing you need to do right now other than exist in this peaceful space, letting the rhythm of your breathing slow down to match the steady, patient pulse of the natural world. Just as the garden outside has its own schedule, your body has its own internal clock, guiding you toward a deep and restorative sleep. While we often think of plants as stationary and slow, moving only with the growth of days and weeks, there are exceptions that seem almost magical in their responsiveness to the night. One of the most enchanting of these is the moonflower, known scientifically as a Pomoea alba. Unlike the queen of the night, which takes hours to reveal its glory, the moonflower is a creature of sudden, graceful movement. If you were to sit very still in a garden at the edge of twilight, you would witness something truly rare in the botanical world. A flower that unfurls in real time right before your eyes. In less than a single minute, often in as little as 30 seconds, the tightly coiled, greenish buds of the moonflower begin to spin and expand. It is a smooth, liquid motion like a dancer stretching out their arms after a long rest. To see a flower bloom with such speed is to feel as though you have been invited into a secret accelerated version of life. One moment there is a pointed, spiraled bud, and the next, a large, brilliant white blossom has spiraled open, releasing a sudden cloud of sweet, clove-like fragrance into the cooling air. This rapid movement is a specialized adaptation, ensuring the flower is ready the very moment its nocturnal pollinators begin their evening flights. When the moonflower is fully open, its shape is quite distinct. The petals form a wide, flat circle, almost like a shallow bowl or a satellite dish. This shape is not accidental. These flowers have evolved to be highly efficient reflectors of the very limited light available after the sun is set. By spreading their white petals into this wide, dish-like configuration, they catch and concentrate the faint silver glow of the moon and the distant stars. To a hawk moth hovering in the dark, these flowers appear as glowing, circular beacons, standing out against the dark green tapestry of the vine's heart-shaped leaves. The flower is essentially using the physics of light to call out through the darkness, making itself visible even when the world seems entirely black and white. As you imagine these white discs glowing softly under the moonlight, let your mind wander further into the shadows of the forest, beyond the boundaries of the garden. The night shift is vast, and it involves more than just the delicate wings of insects or the silent flight of bats. In the dense, layered canopies of tropical forests, there are other, more unexpected visitors who wait for the sun to go down before they begin their work. These are the nocturnal primates, small, agile creatures with large, luminous eyes that have spent the day tucked away in the hollows of trees, waiting for the blue hour to arrive. Their relationship with the flowers of the night is just as vital and just as ancient as that of the moths and the bees. take another slow, gentle breath, feeling the air move in and out with effortless ease. The world of the night is full of these quiet, hidden connections, all working together in a beautiful, synchronized dance. As we move deeper into the forest to meet these nocturnal travelers, allow yourself to sink even further into the comfort of your bed, knowing that you are part of this grand, peaceful rhythm. The night is a time of activity for some, but for you, it is a time of profound, heavy rest. Feel that rest washing over you now, like the soft silver light of the moon on a waiting flower. Imagine the deep, ancient forests of Madagascar. Here, the night is not a void, but a sanctuary. As the moon rises over the jagged limestone cliffs and the sprawling canopy of the rainforest, a tiny, wide-eyed creature emerges from a hollowed-out tree limb. This is the mouse lemur, the smallest primate in the world, weighing no more than a few ounces. It is a delicate masterpiece of nature, with fur as soft as velvet and eyes that seem to hold the entire reflection of the night sky. The mouse lemur is a creature of the shadows, navigating the intricate web of branches with a quiet, agile grace. While many think of primates as fruit eaters or hunters of insects, the mouse lemur has a sweet, specialized role in the forest's nighttime economy. It is a frequent visitor to the flowers that bloom under the stars. As it scampers through the canopy, it seeks out the heavy nectar-rich blossoms of trees like the baobab, which open their white, waxy petals only when the sun has disappeared. When the mouse lemur finds a flower, it leans in close, its tiny pink nose twitching as it drinks the cool, sweet nectar hidden deep within the petals. In this intimate moment of feeding, something remarkable happens. The flower's pollen, a fine golden dust, brushes against the lemur's face and clings to its dense, soft fur. The lemur doesn't mind. It is entirely focused on the energy-rich reward of the nectar. As the little primate moves from one blossom to the next, it carries this precious cargo with it. When it reaches the next flower, the pollen from its fur is transferred to the new bloom, completing the cycle of life. This makes the mouse lemur a vital, though often overlooked, pollinator. Without these tiny fuzzy travelers, many of the island's most iconic plants would struggle to reproduce. The lemur is a living bridge between trees, a silent gardener of the Madagascar night, moving through the leaves like a small, warm spark of life. Take a slow, deep breath and imagine the soft rustle of the leaves as the mouse lemur leaps from branch to branch. There is a profound sense of purpose in its small movements, a quiet harmony with the world around it. Your own breath can mirror that rhythm, slow, steady, and effortless. Feel the weight of your body pressing into the mattress, as grounded and safe as a lemur tucked into its nest. As we leave the lemurs of Madagascar behind, our journey takes us across the vast expanse of the Indian Ocean to the rugged, ancient landscapes of Australia. Here, the night shift takes on yet another form. In the coastal heathlands and the dense banksia forests, there is another mammal, even more specialized than the lemur, who has dedicated its entire existence to the pursuit of sweetness. This creature, no larger than a mouse, carries a name that perfectly describes its life's work. It is the honey possum, and its story is one of the most unique in the entire animal kingdom. revealing a level of adaptation that seems almost like a dream. Imagine the vast, ancient landscape of the Australian bush at midnight. The air is crisp, carrying the soft, salt-tinged breeze from the coast and the earthy, resinous perfume of the banksia trees. In the quiet darkness, where the shadows of the eucalyptus stretch long and thin across the sandy soil, a tiny creature moves with a sense of quiet, focused purpose. This is the honey possum, or newel binger, a creature so specialized and so delicate that it seems to belong more to the world of folklore than to the rugged wilderness of Western Australia. As you settle deeper into your pillows, imagine this little traveler. It is no larger than a human thumb, with soft, honey-colored fur and 3 dark stripes running down its back. While many mammals are generalists, eating whatever they can find, the honey possum is one of the few mammals in the entire world that lives entirely on nectar and pollen. It has no need for insects or seeds. Its whole existence is a tribute to the sweetness hidden within the hearts of flowers. It is a tiny living needle, threading its way through the dense scrub in search of the next golden bloom. The way it feeds is a masterpiece of natural engineering. Its snout is long and tapered, designed to reach deep into the complex tubular structures of the native blossoms. But the true secret of its success is its tongue. If you were to look very closely, you would see that the tip of its tongue is not smooth. Instead, it is covered in fine hair-like structures that form a biological brush. As the honey possum licks the flower, this brush-like tip expands, soaking up the liquid nectar like a sponge and gathering the protein-rich pollen with effortless efficiency. Visualize this tiny marsupial balanced delicately on the edge of a large brush-like flower. It uses its prehensile tail to anchor itself, leaving its tiny paws free to grasp the petals. There is a profound rhythmic peace in its movements, a cycle of drinking and moving, as it wanders through the silver-lit heathland. As it feeds, the pollen brushes against its fur, turning this small creature into a vital messenger for the forest. It carries the life force of one plant to the next, a silent partner in the ancient dance of the Australian night. Take a slow, calming breath, feeling the stillness of the room around you. Just as the honey possum finds its nourishment in the quiet of the bush, you are finding your own rest in the quiet of the night. There is a comfort in knowing that even in the deepest shadows, life is moving with grace and intention. To navigate this world of silhouettes and moonlight, the honey possum, like so many other creatures of the night shift, has developed ways of perceiving the world that go far beyond our own human experience. In the near total darkness, where we might see only blurred shapes, these animals find their way with a clarity that seems almost magical, guided by an anatomy designed specifically for the beauty of the dark. As you lie there in the quiet of your room, let your eyes rest. If they're still open, perhaps you notice how the shadows in the corners seem to soften and blend together, turning the familiar shapes of your furniture into gentle, indistinct silhouettes. To our human eyes, the night can feel like a closing door, a time when the vibrant colors of the day are tucked away. But for the creatures of the night shift, the moths, the bats, and the tiny nectar-seeking possums, the darkness is not a barrier. It is a world of incredible detail, illuminated by a biology that we are only just beginning to truly understand. Take a slow, deep breath in, feeling the cool air fill your lungs, and then let it out even more slowly. As you exhale, imagine the weight of your body sinking deeper into the soft support of your bed. Just as you're settling into the stillness, the nocturnal world is wide awake, navigating the forest and the garden with a clarity that seems almost supernatural. This ability to see in what we perceive as total darkness is made possible by a remarkable evolutionary gift found in many nocturnal animals. A specialized layer of tissue known as the tapetum lucidum. The tapetum lucidum, which translates beautifully from Latin as bright tapestry, is a reflective layer located directly behind or within the retina of the eye. You can think of it as a tiny biological mirror. When a stray photon of moonlight or starlight enters the eye of a moth or a lemur, it passes through the light-sensitive cells of the retina. In a human eye, any light not captured on this first pass is simply lost, absorbed into the dark tissues at the back of the eye. But in a nocturnal pollinator, that light hits the tapetum lucidum and bounces back, passing through the retina a second time. This gives the animal's brain a second chance to process the image, essentially doubling the amount of light available to them. It is this second chance for light that creates the phenomenon we know as eye shine. If you have ever caught the gaze of a cat in the beam of a flashlight, or seen the tiny diamond-like glints of a moth's eyes in the garden at night, you are seeing the tapetum lucidum in action. The glow you see isn't light being produced by the animal. It is the reflection of your own light source, amplified and sent back toward you. In the natural world, even the faint silver glow of a crescent moon provides enough energy for these creatures to see the world in high definition. They don't see a world of black and white. They see a world of depth, texture, and movement, where every leaf and every petal is etched in silver. As you continue to breathe deeply and rhythmically, imagine the quiet efficiency of this system. There is no strain, no effort, just a natural, effortless adaptation to the environment. The night is not a place of confusion for these travelers. It is a place of profound clarity. They move through the air with a confidence that comes from seeing the world exactly as it is intended to be seen in the hours between dusk and dawn. This specialized vision is particularly sensitive to the unique quality of light that defines the nighttime hours, a spectrum of light that feels very different from the golden warmth of the sun, shifting instead into the cool, tranquil depths of the blue and ultraviolet. This shift in color is the secret language of the moonlit garden, a quiet signal that tells the night bloomers and their visitors that the most important part of their day is just beginning. Take a moment to feel the weight of your body against the mattress, as still and supported as the garden outside. We often think of the night as being defined by the absence of light, but in reality, it is simply a different kind of light. The moon, hanging high and silent above the trees, acts as a gentle transformer. It catches the fiery, intense radiation of the sun and softens it, reflecting it back toward Earth in a much more subtle form. Scientifically, it is fascinating to note that moonlight is actually shifted slightly toward the red end of the spectrum. compared to direct sunlight. It is technically warmer in color. However, as you lie there in the quiet, you may recall that the moon always looks cool, silvery, or even blue-gray to your eyes. This is due to a phenomenon in our own biology, where, in dim light, our eyes become less sensitive to red and more sensitive to blue. This creates the ethereal, sapphire-toned world we associate with the deep night. For the plants that bloom during these hours, this specific wavelength of light is everything. They have spent millions of years tuning their biology to be most visible in this exact blue-gray glow. A white petal on a night-blooming jasmine isn't just white. It is a specialized surface designed to capture and scatter the specific photons reflected by the moon. While a vibrant red or deep purple flower might disappear into the shadows, becoming nearly invisible to a pollinator, these pale blooms stand out with high contrast against the dark foliage. They are like small organic mirrors, catching the silver light and glowing with an intensity that seems almost impossible in the dark. It is a quiet, steady broadcast that requires no power other than the natural reflection of the celestial body above. This relationship between light and life is perhaps most beautifully seen in the evening primrose. As the daylight fades and the moon begins its slow climb, the primrose prepares its display. To our eyes, it appears as a simple, four-petaled flower in soft shades of lemon or cream. It looks peaceful, almost dormant, but in the specific light of the evening, it is working hard. It is broadcasting a visual signal that is perfectly calibrated for the eyes of its nocturnal visitors. It uses the moon's unique spectrum to highlight its position in the garden, acting as a landmark in a world of shadows. And as we look closer at these blooms, we begin to realize that what we see is only half the story. There are patterns etched into these petals, hidden maps, and landing strips that remain completely invisible to human eyes, waiting for a different kind of light to reveal their true purpose. These hidden patterns are the secret language of the night, written in a spectrum that begins where our vision ends. Imagine, for a moment, that you could shift your vision just a few degrees beyond the violet edge of the rainbow into a realm called the ultraviolet. While this spectrum remains entirely invisible to our human eyes, it is the primary language of the nocturnal world. As you lie there, comfortably tucked away, consider the secret architecture of the night garden, a world of light and color that exists right in front of us, yet remains hidden behind a veil of biology. To a moth or a beetle, the flowers we see as simple pale shapes are actually adorned with intricate glowing maps. These hidden patterns are known to scientists as nectar guides. If you were to look at an evening primrose or a moonflower through the eyes of a nocturnal pollinator, you wouldn't see a uniform cream-colored surface. Instead, you would see a vivid bullseye or a series of radiating lanes like a landing strip on a dark runway, all pointing directly to the center of the bloom where the nectar is hidden. These guides act as a visual shorthand, a silent set of directions that tells the insect exactly where to land to find its reward. In the economy of nature, this is a brilliant efficiency. A moth flying through the cool night air needs to conserve its energy. By following these ultraviolet maps, it doesn't have to wander aimlessly across the petals. It can navigate with the precision of a pilot, guided by radio beacons. It is a fascinating truth of biology that even in near total darkness, these ultraviolet patterns remain remarkably distinct to an insect's eye. While we might struggle to find our way through a moonless garden, the specialized photoreceptors in a moth's eyes are tuned to catch the tiniest amounts of ambient UV light, light that lingers in the atmosphere or reflects off the clouds even after the sun has long since vanished. This creates a high contrast world where the flowers seem to vibrate with a light of their own. The dark green leaves of the plant absorb the ultraviolet rays, becoming a deep velvety black background, while the petals reflect them intensely, making the nectar guides pop with a clarity that is almost impossible for us to imagine. It is a masterpiece of natural engineering, ensuring that even in the deepest shadows of the midnight hour, the work of the garden never falters. Take a slow, deep breath now, and let the image of these glowing, secret maps settle in your mind. Feel the stillness of the room around you, the weight of your limbs against the mattress, and the gentle rise and fall of your chest. The garden outside is not a place of chaotic darkness, but a world of incredible order and hidden beauty. Every petal is a signpost, every scent is a trail. There is a quiet pulse to this nocturnal landscape, a rhythmic, steady heartbeat that matches the slow pace of the cooling earth. As the wind moves softly through the trees, it carries the stories of these hidden colors, moving from one bloom to the next in a silent, ancient dance. You are part of this rhythm, safe and warm, as the garden continues its quiet work under the watchful gaze of the stars. The world is at rest, yet it is full of life, moving at a pace that is perfectly in tune with the peaceful stillness of your own sleep. In this space, there is no rush, no, only the steady, comforting pulse of the night. As you lie there, drifting deeper into the quiet, imagine the silence of the garden beginning to fill with a very low rhythmic sound. It isn't a loud noise, but a gentle, steady vibration that seems to come from the air itself. This is the humming of the night, the collective song of thousands of tiny wings moving through the darkness. For a moth or a nocturnal bee, flight is an act of incredible physical precision. To hover perfectly still in front of a swaying flower, their wings must beat hundreds of times every single second. This rapid movement creates a frequency so high and steady that it reaches our ears as a soft, comforting drone, a sound that signals the garden is at work while the rest of the world sleeps. Take a slow, deep breath and feel that same sense of steady, quiet energy in your own body. Just as the moth finds its rhythm in the air, your breath finds its rhythm in the stillness of your room. There is no need to hurry. The night has its own pace, and you are perfectly in step with it. This humming is more than just the sound of travel. It is a key that unlocks the secret of the flowers themselves. In the world of botany, there is a remarkable phenomenon known as buzz pollination or sonication. Some plants, like certain species of nightshades or wild lilies, do not simply leave their pollen out in the open for any passing insect to take. Instead, they keep their pollen tucked away in specialized tube-like structures called poricidal anthers. To release this treasure, the flower requires a very specific physical trigger. It doesn't respond to the wind or a clumsy touch, it responds to sound. When a pollinator, like a large bee or a specialized hawk moth, approaches, it vibrates its flight muscles without moving its wings, creating a powerful, localized resonance. The flower literally feels this vibration. It begins to shiver at the exact same frequency as the insects hum. In response to this perfect musical note, the pollen is shaken loose from the tubes, bursting out in a fine golden mist that coats the visitor's body. It is a moment of perfect physical harmony, the plant and the insect vibrating as one, ensuring that the cycle of life continues. Without this precise hum, the flower would remain closed, its potential for new life locked away. This interaction is a reminder of how deeply interconnected the senses are in nature. Here, sound and touch are just as important as sight and smell. As the air hums above, another sound begins to rise from the shadows of the leaves and the cool, damp earth below. It is the rhythmic, percussive chirping of the night's most famous musicians, the crickets. While we often associate their song with the fading light of dusk, many species are most active in the deep middle of the night. But these insects are not just singers. In the quiet reaches of the forest, some have taken on a role that scientists are only just beginning to fully understand. Beyond the flutter of wings and the vibration of petals, there are unexpected helpers moving through the undergrowth, their tiny feet treading softly on the bark as they seek out their own nocturnal rewards. The garden's symphony is far more complex than it seems, with every performer, from the loudest hum to the quietest crawl, playing a vital part in the midnight harvest. As you listen to the imagined sounds of this hidden world, let your thoughts settle even further, moving from the active air down to the secret pathways of the trees. Among these hidden musicians, there is one creature whose role in the garden is far more profound than its song suggests. This is the raspy cricket, a member of a family known for their striking appearance and their rhythmic, nocturnal lives. While we often think of crickets as simple inhabitants of the grass, certain species have developed a sophisticated relationship with the flowers that bloom under the stars. In some remote parts of the world, such as the lush volcanic slopes of Reunion Island in the Indian Ocean, these crickets are not just visitors. They are the primary architects of a plant's future. Imagine a delicate orchid, pale and ghost-like in the moonlight, its petals curved into a long, slender spur. This is the Angraecum cadeti. For a long time, scientists were puzzled by this flower, as it didn't seem to attract the usual moths or bees that frequent other orchids. It wasn't until they watched through the long, quiet hours of the night that they discovered its secret partner, the raspy cricket, moving with a slow and deliberate grace, climbs the stem of the orchid. It is drawn not by the promise of a mate, but by the sweet, hidden nectar tucked deep within the flower's spur. As the cricket leans in to drink, its head brushes against the flower's reproductive structures. In this gentle contact, a small, sticky packet of pollen, known as a pollineum, attaches itself firmly to the cricket's face, right between its eyes or near its antenna. The cricket, unbothered by its new passenger, eventually moves on, traveling through the undergrowth to the next bloom. When it reaches another orchid to drink again, the pollen is perfectly positioned to brush off onto the new flower. This is the only known instance in the world where a member of the cricket and grasshopper order is the sole pollinator for an orchid species. This discovery changed the way we look at the night shift. It reminded us that nature is full of these unexpected, specialized partnerships that happen while the rest of the world is asleep. The cricket, often overlooked or viewed only as a source of background noise, becomes a vital link in the chain of life. It carries the future of an entire species on its head, navigating the dark forest with a sense of purpose we are only just beginning to map. These relationships, whether they involve a tiny cricket on a distant island or a moth in your own backyard, form a vast, invisible web that spans the entire globe. Each interaction is a small, quiet miracle of timing and evolution. As the cricket continues its journey through the leaves, we begin to see how these individual stories add up to something much larger. Every nectar-sipping insect and every night-blooming flower contributes to a global rhythm that sustains the very air we breathe and the food that grows from the earth. The impact of these nocturnal connections reaches far beyond the boundaries of a single garden, touching every corner of our planet in ways that are as subtle as they are essential. As you drift further into relaxation, consider the scale of this work, how the quiet actions of the few support the life of the many across every continent. Take a moment now to simply breathe, allowing your body to settle even deeper into the softness of your bed. As we move from the specific world of a single cricket on a single island, let your mind expand to the vast, sweeping scale of the global night. Imagine the shadow of the earth as it moves across the continents like a cooling blanket, covering the mountains, the restless oceans, and the silent forests. In this shadow, a massive, coordinated effort is taking place, a symphony of movement that happens every single time the sun dips below the horizon. While we rest, a significant portion of the world's fruit and seed production is being managed by this tireless night shift. It is easy to think of pollination as a daytime activity, something belonging to the bright sun and the honeybee, but the reality is much larger. In every corner of the globe, nocturnal pollinators are responsible for the reproduction of thousands of plant species, many of which provide the very foundations of our own lives. From the agave plants in the high deserts that rely on bats, to the wild fruits of the African savanna, the work done in the dark is essential to the survival of the planet. Consider the intricate web of life that begins with a single moth visiting a single flower. This one interaction produces a seed. That seed grows into a tree. That tree provides a home for birds, shade for the soil, and oxygen for the atmosphere. If the night shift were to stop, if the moths, bats, and beetles could no longer find their flowers, these wild ecosystems would begin to unravel within just a few generations. The old trees would eventually fall, and there would be no young saplings to take their place. The fruits that feed the creatures of the day would vanish, and the delicate balance of the forest would tilt toward silence. This global rhythm is a quiet miracle of timing, ensuring that life continues to renew itself even while the world is at its most still. As you lie there, feeling the weight of your limbs and the steady rhythm of your breath, think of this invisible work as a form of global stewardship. It is a labor of love performed by millions of tiny wings and soft footsteps, moving through the cool air to ensure the world remains green and vibrant. This immense, interconnected system relies on one very simple, ancient constant: the presence of true deep darkness. For millions of years, the cycle of light and dark has been as reliable as the heartbeat of the earth itself. The plants and their pollinators have evolved to trust the arrival of the night, using the stars and the moon as their only guides. But as we look out over the sleeping landscape, we begin to notice a change in the texture of the evening. In the distance, the soft velvet of the natural night is being interrupted by a different kind of glow. We are entering an age where the true dark is becoming harder to find, as the lights of our cities and roads stretch further into the wilderness. This gentle intrusion of artificial light is starting to ripple through the nocturnal world, creating new challenges for the creatures that have spent eons perfecting their dance in the shadows. The very darkness that protects and guides them is being transformed. And as we drift closer to sleep, we begin to understand why the preservation of the night is just as important as the protection of the day. Take a slow, deep breath in and let it out. Feel the stillness of your room and the safety of the shadows around you. For us, darkness is a time for rest. But for the creatures of the night, it is their entire world, a precious resource, as vital as water or air. We often think of darkness as a void, but in the natural world, true dark is a rich, complex environment. It is the backdrop that allows the faint glow of a moonflower to stand out and the subtle scent of a cactus bloom to be the primary guide. When the night is truly dark, the senses of these creatures are at their sharpest, tuned to the most delicate signals of the botanical world. In our modern world, we have brought a version of the sun with us into the night. Artificial light, from street lamps, porch lights, and glowing city skylines, has created a phenomenon known as light pollution. For a nocturnal pollinator, like a hawk moth or a small beetle, this light can be incredibly disorienting. For millions of years, these insects have used the moon and the stars as celestial compasses to navigate the landscape. They keep the light source at a constant angle to fly in a straight line. When a bright artificial light appears nearby, it overwhelms their senses. Instead of following the nectar trail to a fragrant evening primrose, they may find themselves drawn toward a glowing bulb, circling it in a spiral until they are exhausted. This attraction to light pulls them away from their essential work, leaving flowers unvisited and the insects without the energy they need to survive. It interrupts the quiet conversation between the plant and the pollinator. However, there is a growing movement to protect the integrity of the night. Across the globe, dark sky initiatives are working to preserve the natural darkness of our planet. These programs are more than just a way for astronomers to see the stars. They are a lifeline for the ecosystem. They encourage the use of motion sensor lights, shielded fixtures that point light downward where it is actually needed, and warmer toned bulbs that are less disruptive to the vision of nocturnal animals. By reclaiming the dark, we are actively protecting these delicate ecological relationships. We are giving the moths their compass back and allowing the bats to forage in the deep shadows where they feel most secure. These efforts show a deepening respect for the rhythms of the earth, recognizing that the night needs to be dark for the world to remain healthy and vibrant. Even in the face of these modern changes, nature shows an incredible quiet resilience. The living world has a way of adjusting, of finding the gaps between the glows and continuing its ancient cycles. The night shift is persistent. It has weathered countless shifts in the environment over millions of years, and it possesses a deep instinctive flexibility that allows it to carry on. As we think about the challenges of the modern night, we can also find comfort in the strength of these natural systems. They are not easily discouraged. They are simply waiting for us to step back and let the darkness return to its natural velvet state. This resilience is a testament to the power of life, which always seeks a way to bloom regardless of the obstacles in its path. Within this deep resilience lies a sophisticated, silent intelligence. While we often think of plants as stationary and fixed in their ways, they are remarkably attuned to the subtle shifts of the atmosphere. They don't just bloom by a rigid schedule, they listen to the night. One of the most fascinating ways they adapt is through the timing of their scent release. You see, the evening air is rarely consistent. Some nights are heavy with humidity and warmth, while others carry a sharp, sudden chill. Science has shown us that many night-blooming species can actually adjust the peak of their fragrance production based on the temperature of the air. If a night is unexpectedly cold, a plant may delay releasing its volatile organic compounds, those invisible threads of perfume, until the air warms slightly. Or, if a warm front moves in early, it might begin its broadcast sooner than usual. This is a vital survival strategy. Most nocturnal pollinators, like moths and beetles, are highly sensitive to temperature. If it is too cold, their muscles cannot move fast enough for flight, and they remain tucked away in the safety of the foliage. By syncing its scent production with these temperature shifts, the plant ensures that it only spends its limited energy when its partners are most active. It's a beautifully choreographed dance between the botanical and the biological, a constant negotiation conducted in the language of chemistry and warmth. This flexibility ensures that even in a changing environment, the night shift continues its work, finding that perfect window of time where the air is just right for a moth to catch a scent and follow it home. It is a reminder that nature is never truly asleep. It is simply waiting for the right moment to express itself. Now, take a moment to notice the air in your own room. Feel its coolness against your skin and the warmth of the blankets gathered around you. Imagine yourself as part of this quiet, nocturnal world where everything is slow, deliberate, and perfectly timed. There is no rush, no urgency, just the steady rhythmic pulse of the earth as it breathes in the dark. You're drifting now, much like a scent on a gentle breeze, moving effortlessly through the stillness. Your thoughts are becoming softer, lighter, like the pale petals of a moonflower closing as the night deepens. Everything is in its right place. The garden is adjusting to the cool of the shadows, and you are adjusting to the deep, heavy comfort of your bed. Let the weight of the day fall away, replaced by the velvet softness of the night. You are safe, you are still, and you are perfectly in tune with the quiet world around you. As the deep blue of the midnight sky begins its slow, inevitable transition toward the pale violets and soft pinks of the pre-dawn hour, the night shift starts to wind down. This period, often called the blue hour, is a time of profound change in the garden. The plants, so finely tuned to the subtle shifts in light and atmosphere, sense the coming sun long before it actually crests the horizon. This awareness triggers a quiet, internal transformation. As the first microscopic particles of morning light begin to filter through the upper atmosphere, many night-blooming flowers undergo a sudden shift in their chemical profile. They simply stop producing their intoxicating scents. The volatile organic compounds that have been drifting through the cool air for hours begin to dissipate, no longer replenished by the petals. It is as if the plant is pulling in a long, quiet breath, retracting its invisible invitation to the moths, bats, and beetles. The air, which might have been thick with the heady perfume of night-blooming jasmine or the musty sweetness of a cactus bloom, begins to clear, becoming crisp and neutral once again. This isn't just a passive reaction to the light. It is a strategic and vital conservation of energy. Producing those complex scents and the rich, sugary nectar that fuels nocturnal visitors is an incredibly expensive process for a plant. It requires a significant portion of the sugars the plant created through photosynthesis during the previous day. Once the window for their specialized pollinators has closed, the plant redirects every available resource. The energy that was used to broadcast a scent across a mile of dark forest is now funneled into the most important task of the botanical life cycle, the development of seeds. You can almost see the transition in the physical posture of the flowers. The petals, which were wide and vibrant under the moon, begin to lose their tension. The moonflower, which unfurled with such dramatic speed just hours ago, now begins to twist and fold, its brilliant white surface tucking itself back into a tight, protective spiral. The heavy, fragrant head of the queen of the night cactus begins to wilt, bowing toward the earth as its one-night performance reaches its conclusion. The work of the night is finished. The pollen has been delivered, the nectar has been shared, and the promise of a new generation is now held safely within the cooling base of the flower. Think of this transition as the plant's own version of tucking itself in. The day will bring new challenges, the drying heat of the sun and the different insects of the morning. But for these nocturnal specialists, the coming light is a signal to retreat and recover. Just as the flowers are folding their petals, you are folding away the lingering thoughts of your day. Feel the weight of your limbs sinking deeper into the mattress, as if you too are settling in after a long and meaningful cycle. This is the rhythm of the living world, an endless loop of waking and sleeping, of giving and receiving. The garden has been a busy, thriving metropolis under the stars, a place of silent flight and secret meetings. Now it is preparing for a different kind of quiet. The night shift is preparing to hand over the keys to the day shift, but for this brief, magical moment, everything is perfectly still. The world is catching its breath between two heartbeats, and you are drifting along with it, moving closer and closer to a deep restorative rest. The cycle is complete, and the earth is at peace. As the light continues to soften and the garden settles into its final transition, it is helpful to think of this space not just as a collection of plants and insects, but as a living, breathing clock. In this botanical timepiece, the hands are made of unfurling petals and the beating of wings. The night is not one long, undifferentiated stretch of time. Instead, it is a series of carefully timed appointments, a sequence of shifts that ensure every creature and every bloom has its moment in the spotlight. From the very first moment the sun dips below the horizon, the first shift begins. These are the specialists of the dusk, like the evening primrose and the hawk moths, who thrive in that hazy purple light of the blue hour. They take the first watch, moving through the garden while the air is still holding on to the last lingering warmth of the day. But as the night deepens and the air grows truly cold, they retreat, handing the garden over to the next group of specialists. By midnight, the atmosphere has changed. The scents are heavier, and the visitors are different. This might be the time when the bats arrive, guided by the musky perfumes of the desert cacti, or when the most elusive moths emerge to find the flowers that only open in the deepest, darkest part of the night. Even in the final hour before dawn, there is a specific crew of pollinators, insects that prefer the pre-dawn chill, who visit the last of the nectar-rich blooms before the sun returns. This staggered schedule is a masterpiece of natural harmony. Because every hour of the night has a different specialist pollinator active, thousands of different species can coexist in the very same space without ever truly competing. It is a grand, silent choreography. One flower opens at 8, another at midnight, and another at 4 in the morning. By dividing the night into these specific windows, the ecosystem ensures that resources are never wasted and that every visitor has a fair chance to find the sustenance it needs. It is a reminder of how deeply interconnected every living thing is. The flower depends on the moth depends on the timing of the moon, and the moon governs the rhythm of the entire garden. There is a profound sense of security in this order. Nothing is left to chance. Everything has its time and its place. The garden operates with a quiet clockwork precision that has been refined over millions of years, a steady pulse that continues even while the rest of the world is dreaming. You can feel that same rhythm within yourself now. Just as the garden moves through its shifts, your own body is moving through its own internal schedule. As you drift closer to sleep, your systems are handing over their tasks, moving from the active energy of the day to the restorative work of the night. Your breath is the pendulum of your own internal clock, steady and slow, marking the passage into a deeper state of relaxation. You are part of this great interconnected web of rest and activity. The world is taking care of itself. The garden is following its ancient plan, and you are free to let go, knowing that everything is exactly as it should be. The night shift is finding its natural conclusion, and the peace of the deep night is finally here. Take a very slow, deep breath in, feeling the air move cool and steady into your lungs, and then let it out even more slowly. Feel the weight of your limbs as they sink into the mattress, as if you are becoming part of the earth itself. The air around you is perfectly still, and the world has grown quiet. We have traveled together through the secret hours of the night, watching the moths dance and the bats glide. But now, even that hidden world is beginning to settle into a final, profound stillness. It is a beautiful thought to realize that plants, like humans, have their own periods of rest. They do not merely exist in a state of constant activity. They have internal rhythms where their metabolic processes slow down significantly. During these quiet hours, the plant's focus shifts from growth and reproduction to maintenance and restoration. Just as your heart rate slows and your body begins its nightly work of healing, a plant's internal chemistry changes to conserve energy. The frantic pace of the day, the stretching toward the sun, the opening of pores to breathe, gives way to a gentle cellular recovery. The garden isn't just a backdrop for the night shift. It is a living participant in the global cycle of rest. The humming has finally stopped. The frantic vibration of wings, the rustle of leaves, and the heavy, intoxicating scent of nectar have all faded into the cool, damp air of the pre-dawn. The work of the night shift is done. In the quiet of these final moments before the first light of morning, the seeds are effectively set. The pollen has found its destination. The genetic promise of the next generation is safely locked away within the flower's heart. There is no more need for the bright white petals to catch the moonlight, nor for the musk to travel on the cooling breeze. The garden has fulfilled its purpose for this cycle. It is quite simply asleep. Imagine the garden now as a tapestry of deep greens and soft shadows, perfectly motionless. Every leaf is draped in a fine silver layer of dew, and every stem is relaxed. There is a deep, resonant peace in knowing that the work is finished. You can carry that same feeling into your own sleep now. Your work for the day is finished. Your thoughts can settle like the dew on a leaf, heavy, cool, and still. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to plan, and nothing left to worry about. The cycle of your day is complete, and the cycle of your rest is beginning. As you drift off, let the image of that quiet, silver-lit garden stay with you. It is a place of absolute safety, a place of ancient rhythms, and a place where everything happens exactly when it is supposed to. You are part of this rhythm. You are held by the same natural laws that guide the stars and the flowers. The world is at rest. The night shift has handed over its duties, and the earth is waiting in the soft darkness for the sun to eventually return. But for now, there is only the dark, the quiet, and the peace. The night is deep, and the silence is kind. May your dreams be as soft as a moth's wing, and your rest as deep as the roots of an ancient tree. You are safe, you are comfortable, and you are ready. Sleep now. Sleep deeply. The garden is at rest, and so are you. Good night.